Okay, we're going to graph the given function f and g in the same rectangular coordinate system. Describe how the graph of g is related to the graph of f. All right, well, let's check it out. Let's find out. So we're going to graph the given function. Now, you could actually just start plugging, you could do a little chart right here, an x and y chart, right? So let's say we want to plug in a 0, see what happens. Okay, fine, fair enough. So we're saying f of 0 equals the absolute value of 0, which is 0. Cool, so we're going to put the 0. Okay, let's try -1. Let's see what happens. All right, so f of -1 equals the absolute value of -1, which is 1. Cool, we got a 1 there. Now, I'm just kind of messing around here because we already actually looked this one up a long time ago, what this one looked like. And the graph itself said, but this is how you do it if you didn't know. So this isn't wrong. It's just the next one would be a +1. Absolute value of a 1 is equal to 1. All right, so then you'd have a 1, 1 here. Then we do a -2. Then we do a 2. Absolute value of -2 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. And we can just keep going with this, right? So we can do a -3 and a 3. Absolute value of -3 is 3. Absolute value of +3 is 3. And if we plotted all these points out, we'd get that base function that we had looked at earlier. So you can either do it kind of from memory if you already know it. Or you could do one of those little tables and you could figure it out. Okay, now notice that the second one over here is a little bit different. It's the same thing, right? So, and I could, if I didn't know what's going to happen here, but let's predict first. Let's see what we can do. Now, I predict that whatever that's going to do is going to affect the y's, because this is really saying y is equal to, dot, 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 and you're subtracting a 6 from it. Well, all that's going to happen is all these points are going to go down six levels, right? So that's going to hit here, that's going to be there, that's going to be there, that's going to be there. Same thing on this one, it's going to be here, 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 and here, right? So everything, whoops, too many points. Anyways, so notice that everything just went down 6. That's what I predict. And sure enough, if I plug the numbers in, you'll see that this prediction was true. If I could draw a straight line, that would be awesome. Okay, so just like that. So let's see if it's verified by plugging stuff in. So I say 0, and then what would happen is, I would say if I wrote everything out, which is going to take a bit of time, but if you say this, it'd be so the absolute value of 0 is 0, and it would be 0 minus 6, which is -6. And sure enough, what do we do right here? Well, there's a 0, -6 right there. What if I plug in a +1? Well, same kind of thing, right? 1. So we say absolute value of 1 is 1. 1 minus 6. 1 minus 6 is equal to -5. And -5. In fact, it would just go down the previous one on the left, and we would just subtract 6 from everything. And sure enough, we would end up with the same kind of pattern, right? So we could say 1, and then of course it would still be -5. Then we have -2, 2, -3, 3. And we would just take whatever we had over there on the left side and we would subtract 6 from it. So we'd end up with -4, -4, -3, -3. And sure enough, that is exactly what we ended up with. So everything kind of worked out pretty well. So we're going to graph the given functions f and g in the same rectangular coordinate system and describe how the graph g is related to the graph of f. Okay, so if we didn't know what this graph looked like, we could just make a little chart and start off with 0. And what we would do is we say, oh, it's f of 0, which is 0 cubed, which is 0. And that would give us a 0. And we could do the same kind of thing with 1. All right, so we'd say 1 cubed is 1. So we'd have a 1, 1. Then we could say f of 2 equals 2 cubed, and that would give me an 8, which should be a 2 and an 8. I could also do a -1, whoops, that's way too big. So f of -1, which gives me a -1 cubed, which gives me a -1. And then I could do an f of -2, and I could do -2 cubed, which gives me -8. And there we go. So now we plot all those points. Let me do the original one in black. I know it's a little confusing, my color change, but the original right here would be here, here, and it would be a 2, which is a here, and it would be a -2, which is a -8 there. So then what would happen is the whole thing would look something like, I almost had it. Oh well. Ooh. Okay, so what's the original one looks like? Now the second one, g of x is equal to x cubed minus 1, you notice it's just going to move the whole thing down 1. And so it look like this, this, and this. And then this point right here is going to be here. And this point right there is going to be here instead. And if I had drawn this better, this wouldn't look so weird. But I didn't do a very good drawing it. Like that. Okay, so that should have been the original one moved down 1, but I didn't do a very good drawing, so it didn't look right. And you could verify that by plugging numbers in. But again, if you kind of memorize the base ones, you don't have to worry about it.